or the Epic judges that. So
Is that happening today or is that next week?
I have no idea. I guess it's today or it's demo day or something's happening today. Yo, how's it going, Tyler?
Hey, can you all hear me all right?
Yes, we
Yee,
can.
got you loud and clear.
Yes. Nice. Yeah, today's a demo day for the hackathon, so some of the finalist projects are going through their demos and being judged right now.
Nice. Epic. Epic. Okay. So the agenda for today, I've got to
Yeah,
pull it
let's
up because I
let's
guess I
kick
closed
it
that.
off.
Yes.
Just a quick update. The short update is the archive node bounty was approved and assigned to Node Fleet. So we've got that node running. We sent the first bounty payment over to Lowell and his team. So that will enable Max to continue working on the indexer and complete that, which I know Lex, you have an update on, but that's just the quick and dirty on archive node. We've gotten our first snapshot. Everything looks good. So we'll just keep you all updated if anything changes there. But for now, everything looks good.
Yes. Yeah. So archive node is running now, which is awesome. Um, and basically, the update from CloudMos is that now that they have access to the archive node, the database architecture is mostly done. Um, but they need the old block data to start working on indexing each of the contract transactions. So they're going to be doing that in the coming week. They'll be balancing that also with travels around Akash Accelerate. We're going to see them. They're traveling, over the weekend for Accelerate, and we'll get to see them down there in Austin as well, which would be super cool. Point being, the next step in the indexer is basically um, indexing the contract transactions, which now we have full archival node of those transactions, and that can be done.
I know that's been just an ongoing question and concern in the community, so I'm really, really grateful to have that finally moving forward.
Oh yeah,
Ideally,
very
we would
excited
have
about that.
for sure. Right. Well, we have Tassio on to talk about NFT staking. I know we talked about it in our last meeting, but Tassio has worked on our smart contracts at Passage before. And so we wanted to reach out to him and see if he might be able to take on some of the NFT staking projects and priorities that we have already, just given his background and familiarity. So, Tassio, I don't know if you've been able to review the requirements that we sent over. I'll share my screen in just a second.
Yes. Any questions you might have, we can also just walk through the doc if you haven't gotten a chance to look through it yet.
Yeah, I saw it. I had a few thoughts about it, but um, is this for the passage chain or is this on Juno?
This is for the passage chain. So it's a good question because um, we migrated all of the marketplace contracts over to the passage chain. Um, I don't know what the current state of the Vault contract is. I'd have to ask Mike specifically about that. I don't think, because again, it's just a CosmWasm environment. I don't think it should be fundamentally different in terms of like the environment in which the contract would be running. I think for the most part, things are the same. And we can coordinate around any, elements that might be different structurally. But I think for the most part, the environment is going to be almost identical because it's just a CosmWasm environment on the Cosmos SDK chain.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that you guys had added CosmWasm.
Yes. Yep. I think so, right? I feel like that is accurate, but now I'm quite confident we have CosmWasm support. Yes.
Okay, that's awesome. So yeah, because I was gonna say that for this NFT staking, a lot of the functionality is stuff that's already available on DAO.
Okay.
Because like if you launch a DAO, you can stake NFTs in the DAO, and um, there's a staking period, and all these things are very flexible, and they have a nice interface,
Mm,
and I think they're even working on the token emissions that get kind of paid out, like you have specked out here.
yes. Yes. Yeah,
but
and the idea there is to
that's not
have
going to be
like a
available on the. Yeah, I mean that's available on Juno, but probably not on the Passage chain.
no, yeah, we don't have, and we did actually get a quote because I think somebody
Yeah.
was interested in some DAO functionality for Passage, and they talked to us, and it was going to be like 100K to
Yeah,
have
it's
them
Mhm.
set up DAO on Passage. Yeah. Um, so, I mean, super open to what that looks like. I mean, I don't know if there's a way to adapt what they're doing to the Passage environment, or just replicate the methodology, right? Um, but just in terms of kind of like the intent here, the goal is to build something that will facilitate the Strange Clan egg staking event, right? But then also be useful as a general purpose tool, right? That's why I kind of like I'm pushing for that token emission concept, because it's generic enough that like you could emit any kind of token that's deposited into the contract, right? And and use that in a way for whatever functionality you need, right? Like for the egg staking, the idea is that okay, we could set up some CW20 token specifically for the event, have a capped supply, deposit it into the vault, and then only that token could be used to uh, uh, upgrade the egg or whatever to do at certain points to accomplish kind of the functionality we're thinking of for incentivizing people to stake the eggs longer, right? In order to get more rare mounts. But then the same thing could be used for other projects as well, something that was going to be more broad in application. So that's the idea. But that said, there is flexibility in that in terms of how we do that, as long as it generally fits these parameters.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, I hear what you mean about DAO being expensive, and maybe this implementation can be a bit more narrow and limited, but still flexible enough to kind of accomplish your goals here.
Yeah. Also
So
open to you just setting up DAO yourself or recreating it from scratch. I mean, all of these things are options.
yeah,
I'm
I
being
think
silly here.
no. That would I think you guys should do DAO eventually, just because they offer a lot.
Yeah.
Eventually, maybe you want people in these staking uh, vaults. You want them to be able to vote on stuff, and
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's kind of what DAO is good at. And they could
It's really
deploy it.
cool.
They could deploy it cheaper for what I could deploy it for, because they have all the tools already, and they have everything set up. It would take me a while to get up to speed and build the front end, and all of that would take a lot longer.
Oh
But
yeah.
I
Absolutely.
understand
No.
if it's not like the priority right now.
Yeah, it is. It would enable a broad level of functionality. It's just, um, this is kind of like the infrastructure. The difficulty with this stage of Cosmos infrastructure is that it's so cool, but so niche still, right? So
Yeah,
the target
100%.
audience is small enough that like supporting the developers who are building it is really expensive per potential client, you know?
100%.
Um, we've seen that in the past too, even with like Kepler integrations or Cosmos Station or stuff like that. These are all the kind of like hidden costs of building a blockchain, right? Um, it's
Yeah, and
just all
everything
the
is so
infrastructure around
expensive.
it. Oh yeah, oh yeah. No, like again, I mean that's a good thing to keep in mind. Is there a better way to do this, considering the goal of potentially in the long term implementing DAO, right? And maybe not, right? Maybe not, which is totally fine. It is
Maybe they
okay
would
if there is.
accept payment in passage tokens.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, shoot, if we were to uh uh it would be worthwhile to figure out what is going to be the cost, what it would be the cost in, and actually you say that. I'm pretty sure they explicitly offer to take payment in passage tokens.
Oh,
Probably
nice.
the best way to do it though would be to it's just a huge amount of tokens right now for the amount of liquidity
Yeah,
that we have, right?
yeah.
So if that's something they need for their time, like there's a world in which like we could make that work if it was going to be a uh, uh, if there's a way to basically liquidate the tokens over a longer period of time or do it in installments, whatever, like there's a
Uh-huh.
way that we can make that work, but it's just, and also just is as cool as the functionality is, like the rate at which we would recoup those costs as a chain in terms of value,
Yeah.
for the ecosystem. It's like, yes, it is technically worth that because probably nobody else could do the same thing cheaper because the knowledge is so niche, right? Like you're saying.
Yeah.
Um, but is it worth it as a business, as like as a value proposition for the chain, right? I was
Yeah.
gonna say as a business, right? But like, you know what I mean? Like, if you think of the chain as an economical entity, right? Um, so yeah. Point being, I would totally consider that. Super open to feedback from the community. So this is Greg. Greg just made the point in the chat 6 minutes ago that I missed. He said the character NFTs need to be staked, paired with eggs, and have time requirements for eggs to hatch. So, Greg, the one thing that we do need to pair multiple NFTs. That is one thing that I'm not sure if that's unique from DAO DAO. So basically locking up um, an NFT from one contract with an NFT from another contract, one egg and one character. Um, and which is a change actually to the way that we have the vaults set up now, I think. So there would be some changes to the vault contract or an additional type of vault made. Um, and the idea being that if this isn't already something that DAO DAO has, then maybe this is kind of a moot point, anyways. In terms of the time requirements, Greg, I was kind of substituting that with the emission concept, right? Um, although, yeah, we would want to have a minimum stake if that's what you're talking about, a minimum stake and some things like that. So maybe
So
the requirements don't
something cool you
exactly
could do
overlap.
is have like an NFT that bundles other NFTs. So like you have an NFT collection that each NFT owns like the other two collections, so like the character and the egg. And that way you have
Mm,
and then the DAO can be based on staking those bundled NFTs.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, totally. But then
but I
there
think
would
in
still be a thing
general,
we need to make.
yeah, exactly, yeah. But I
And there
think
was
in
also,
general, go ahead, go ahead.
so I just wanted to mention that there's also a mechanism that's going to be needed at some point, at least has been discussed, that NFTs would be needed to be staked in order to play the game. And so that might be something to consider as well.
Oh, I don't. We've discussed that. Um, I think. Well, yeah, no, that's a good question. Yeah, I do remember talking about that. Yeah, and basically, we want to have some on-chain mechanism for saying, such and such identity has a staked NFT, yay or nay, right? And I think that we could probably accomplish with any of these solutions.
Yeah, so I think in general, just maybe we should just like open up a thread somewhere where we can continuously chat about it, because I just want to like be able to fit in this work with my own tasks, my own roadmap, and I do a lot of work on Cosmosm NFTs, so
Yeah.
just be able to build things for you know for a lot of people to use, and so we can just like maybe set up a chat and then organize kind of a timeline for these things to be shipped. So do you guys
Yeah.
need
We have this NFT staking SIG channel. We can use that. I have a bounty up on our board just in the proposed column, so there's nothing attached to it. It'll be based on that discussion, but I think we can kind of hash it out in the SIG chat and then throw it into GitHub when we have a more firm bounty proposal.
Yeah, it sounds good.
I
And I
just
can
added you.
help with other NFT stuff as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna add you to the SIG channel so you can jump in there.
So like if this was
Um,
just specifically NFT staking for an emission of a token, then ONFT has already set that up and implemented it for free for tons of NFT collections. So there's like a already functional, I say affordable, but currently free option. And there are the Sentinel, or it's one of the Zen Chain Labs functions has an option
Mhm.
for if NFTs are staked somewhere that they can detect that and even do voting power by number of NFTs staked, and that you can do voting
Great.
in Discord. So like the voting can be handled through that. And we're already talking to Zen Chain on stuff. So
Yeah, totally. The only difficulty with the ONFT, uh, basically, I've tried to set up a call, with
Wolfman.
yes, Wolfman. I was gonna say that, but then I was like, wait, no, Wolf is the Juno dude. Wait, no. Yeah, you're right. Um, and it's just been very, very difficult to coordinate. So I, I, I worry it would not be the most reliable long-term path forward. Um, even if the functionality does already exist. Um, yeah,
That's fair.
unless it's open source, in which case, and we can just work with what they have. But yeah, one way or the other. Yes, let's continue this in the SIG NFT staking channel, and I will we'll just kind of continue the dialogue there.
So, do you guys only need the contracts? Or I guess is this
I
proposal
mean,
only about the contracts?
I would say primarily,
Mhm.
there is a world where um, we can get somebody else to do the front end work, right? If
Okay.
that's what you're thinking of.
Yeah, probably. I think it would probably you probably get it faster that way.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of your time and your special sauce, we want you to focus on the contracts.
Okay, sounds good.
Gains. Sick.
Awesome.
Okay, yeah, we will keep that moving forward. We've got a couple options on the table. It'd be good to just kind of figure out. Next steps will be kind of figuring out. Okay, if we just make this based on what we have, um, we'll clarify any specifications or requirements, and then we'll talk through potential scope for getting that done, cost, timeline. If we were to just take that as a standalone thing, in that, then we have the ability to kind of compare, like, well, hey, like maybe it does make sense to integrate uh, uh, with DAO, and we can figure out just potential other options there. But also just like if it's going to make understanding what's going to make your job easier too would be helpful. So being able to just understand kind of the scope and the lift for this on its own gives us a basis on which to understand, like, okay, how do we potentially remove some of that lift and get the most out of this push.
Just for comparison, do we want to get an updated proposal from DAO? I know that was a few months ago at least, so maybe something has changed, maybe not.
Sure. I'm totally willing to go back and be like, how about we give you $10?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll have to review because I don't remember exactly what their proposal looked like, but I remember it being
No, totally fair. That's totally fair to be like, hey, like, we do have this specific application. And they did actually mention, shoot, I gotta find this. They said they're open to getting paid in passage. Okay, this this is okay. So they said for the full deployment, all DAO types, our fee is 100K one time, which covers maintenance, support, future upgrades, etc. indefinitely. We've also found that some chains don't need the whole suite and are instead interested in a light deployment, just membership DAOs. And for that, we charge 25K per year. We typically work with a primary on-chain funding body if one exists, and through chain governance otherwise. So I don't know, actually, maybe 25K a year makes sense. I don't know what membership DAOs is versus all DAO types. Um, so I can get some clarification on them. So there is some stuff we could follow up on and just be like, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish. Does this help us do that?
Yeah, and I heard that they're coming out with a feature called staking rewards, which is what you guys outlined in that spec. It's kind of the token emissions that go to the stakers. So maybe you can
Nice.
ask about that.
Yeah, let's do it. And then it still sounds like there would be a place where we would need our own contracts to potentially interface with the DAO. contracts for, grouping NFTs or things like that. So
Yeah.
have not talked yourself out of a job, Tasio. Good try. But this does give us an opportunity to kind of open up some more functionality on the DAO side as well, which is cool. So I'll follow up with them on that.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Tassio, for your time. Really appreciate you joining.
Thanks, guys.
Yee.
So how are Mike and Ryan and Arrow?
Good. Ryan's
Good.
here
I
in
think
the
Ryan's
chat
on.
with us. Yeah.
Miss those
Just a
guys.
silent worker.
I know. That's part of why I'm excited to potentially get you in again. Is just being able to collaborate on some more of this stuff again. We need to do a big need to pull you into a Bean Jam session again.
I'm just seeing the chat, and so Porobro is saying that each DAO membership type is its own CosmWasm contract.
Yeah. Yep. Which makes sense.
Mm.
I know. I was thinking the same thing, Ryan. Also, you have such a calming voice. You're a calming presence.
I'm just happy to contribute
Yep.
again. So
Heck yeah,
let's
dude.
keep the chat going and see where it takes us.
Yes, sir. And I really appreciate just your like broad insight as well, just in terms of like all the alternatives. That's like super helpful in terms of just understanding what we're actually jumping into here. Okie doke. Other project priorities. So that was really good in terms of NFT staking contracts. I feel like it gives a lot of clarity for next steps there. Other
Mhm.
priorities right now. So just overall, just in terms of like what are the high level priorities for the Passage open source community. It's the things that we're working on now, which are the biggest user experience improvements. Indexer um, is number one because that is the biggest user experience drawback right now on the marketplace. And then some of the front end updates and things like that. So those are top priority just in terms of being able to make it a good experience. But the key there is ease of use, right? We want it to be easy to use, but then also adding value to NFTs, right? Adding some type of utility, adding some type of benefit. And so the NFT staking does that. So that is a high priority, and also just aligns with the roadmap of our preeminent project on the marketplace, which is Strange Clan. So it makes sense, but also offers opportunities for other projects. But then next, so ease of use and utility are really kind of the big things that we're pushing for in terms of the goals. And so one of those is creating a front end for new collections, right? We have a lot of tooling basically in the command line and in the back end for setting up new collections. There's tools for I'm gonna basically for setting up like the images and whatnot on IPFS. Like we have a bunch of tools to automate some of the steps in that process, but it's all via command line right now. So if we can set up a front end for that, we can make it easier for projects to join. And even if it ends up being a whitelisted process at first, right, where not everybody is going to be like it's not going to be open to anyone, but at least for people we do pull in, the process of them getting a collection up on the Passage marketplace is simpler, right? So that is a priority that we're kind of looking into right now, because one of the things that we want to do is basically start a launch pad for the marketplace. And this would be something like we put together an incentive pool for new collections to launch on the marketplace. And we'll basically have submissions where people can submit to get these incentives. One structure that we've talked about is basically like a I mean, how would you phrase that, Brand? Like an upfront bonus, basically a guarantee of a certain minimum for your NFT collection. So basically, imagine like if you list your if you get approved through our program, our Launchpad program, and you list on the marketplace, you're guaranteed a minimum of passage, right? So like anything you don't sell in a certain time period will make up the difference up to like 5K or whatever it may be for a certain number of participants, right? Um, the idea being that we want to kind of remove some of the risk of people launching projects on the Passage marketplace. And this is just kind of a rough concept, but the goal there is primarily to incentivize people getting new creatives on the marketplace as we open up more of this utility, right? Via NFT staking. And then on the Passage platform side, a big priority right now is finishing the PALS avatar system, so that the NFTs can have utility within the Passage application for customizations, right? So that is one
Ryan, is
big
there
kind of like,
anything you want to add there? Because I
yeah,
know
please, please.
we were talking extensively about this yesterday. I think
I
your
cannot hear
mic.
you if you are talking. Sometimes just leaving and coming back helps, but
Without fail.
I hear you, Brianna.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's Ryan that's not.
Yeah.
You guys hear me now?
There you go.
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so Lex touched on it, but we're currently doing some kind of final testing on Elite, which is separate from the open source initiative. But it is going to be a really great opportunity to get world creators building, and the goal is to get them using the chain for whatever their needs might be. And I know some of the users won't, but a lot of the ones we're talking to will want to use the chain in some way. And so we are looking to start onboarding our first kind of selected participants. And I think the first week or two, I think we're looking to start with like 5 or 6 that we have lined up that are all committed, and they kind of span different genres of experience. But so we're launching our V0. Our V1 is the next version, and we're purposely leaving that slate very blank, so we can add stuff based on user feedback. And some of that stuff might end up being things that are more appropriate as open source initiatives. It just depends on what people want to be able to do. But the one thing that we know we want in V1, and it will likely come before V1, we'll release it when it's ready, is both NFT gating and really just NFT integration. So it's kind of like 2 forks off of one initial set of work. So the initial set of work is access to the indexer and allowing us to do blank based on NFT ownership. And the 2 most kind of obvious or first integrations of that will be NFT gating ownership to enter an experience, other than the second one being TALs. And that TALs is something we're tremendously excited about. One, because anybody who's been around a while knows that we've been excited about that for a long time, but we also know that people have bought into those assets, and we're really excited that they can finally have a way to use them. And we're excited about what that means for participation in the marketplace from a consumer perspective, but also from like Lex said, from a creator perspective. So we were discussing earlier this week about that Launchpad, and we really love the idea of quality control, but opening it up and allowing people to participate, and making sure that they know if they participate in this new endeavor, they are getting compensated, and it's not a matter of, hey, if my NFTs don't sell because market conditions or whatever reasons, they're just kind of guaranteed some amount of income. And we want to leave that a little open for now, so we can figure out what the best way to get the most talented kind of creators involved in that is. But yeah, so that's we think that'll be a really big benefit to the chain and the open source community. And obviously our initial set of users is small. We're going to be ramping that up fairly quickly though, and we have a lot of people in the queue to kind of join up with Passage Elite are largely Web3 focused initiatives, and a lot of them have the goal of they want to create a space that people can just join into. So rather than necessarily a closed company isn't going to be inviting everybody in, it might make sense for them to have very specific user set that are joining consistently. We want to make sure that there's also groups that are coming in and creating experiences that are meant for anybody to jump into, which means that anybody can jump in to try out their assets and participate in those events. And we want to make sure we're prioritizing some amount of those types of users in every batch of new kind of elite users that we're adding into. So it's a thing that is not directly tied to open source, but the integrations we're adding to Elite to leverage the marketplace in different ways will hopefully have a really nice benefit, and vice versa. Obviously, Elite also benefits hugely from the pool of users and the ability to gate things based on that. So I think that was a longer version of what Lex said.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a huge opportunity here. Like Ryan said, trying to keep it flexible for now. Like none of this stuff is set in stone. It's just what we've been talking about. We want to create an incentive program, especially as we're unlocking some of this native utility on the chain and in the Passage platform. And yeah, this is we want to be setting up for a time when we can really be pulling in artists actively rather than more passively, like really kind of like put the word out and get some of the best reading in this space.
And one more thing, with that Launchpad idea, I think that the current idea is to bring that out around the time where we hit V2 of Passage Elite, and the key difference in V2 is that it'll be publicly available to just sign up and start using, which means that if you are a user who just wants to create your own world, whether it's because you want to use Passage or you just want to try out your pals assets wherever it is, you'll be able to just sign up at that point rather than kind of going through a smaller number of activations. So when we bring in artists to sell assets and make that commitment and do that work, we want to make sure that the people they're selling to have many options, including creating their own world. So that's when we would probably go for that Launchpad program. But the gating and PALS integrations would happen well before that. So we can work out all the kinks, we can get that running really smoothly, and then once all that's ready and once people can create their own Passage world in Elite, using ranging from our free plan up to paid plans, whatever they feel like doing, that's when we would say, all right, let's really commit dollars to going and getting artists and making sure that there's a big variety of assets that can be used in Passage.
Yeah, for sure. Then really the next big thing was the other like priority or item we've had in front of us. This is more on the usability side, which is just being able to accept payments in other currencies for new collections. So for people who are listing NFTs or for people who are minting NFTs, like setting up, creating collections, allowing them to mint or trade in different currencies. And we would kind of figure out, I think honestly, first priority would be something like USDC, potentially also accepting highly liquid tokens like Atom. And what's unique about this is there's a really unique balance because it allows us to kind of create a structure where we can start to build liquidity. We can start to build, a treasury that is diversified from Passage tokens, and also set up, some type of system for, buying Passage with those tokens, right? Because there is a benefit to simply having people purchase Passage tokens so that we have more activity, which creates, in general, a better user experience for being able to buy if there's more volume and more interest in the token. It improves the user experience when people have to buy Passage or to get Passage NFTs and integrate with the market or interact with the marketplace. But the benefit of being able to use other tokens is that we can capture that value and control how we are basically funneling that value into the Passage token, right? In terms of pairing with Passage tokens for liquidity or whatever it may be, it gives us a more intentional approach to that. But again, this is more of a usability thing. It's not as much a utility thing. So it's lower on the list compared to things like NFT staking or the PALS integrations for avatar customizations, or a front end for setting up NFT collections, because those are going to more directly impact creators and purveyors of the Passage marketplace. So that's kind of the list of things. If there's something you'd like to see on that roadmap, this is not a concrete roadmap, but just in terms of like things that are in front of us, priorities in terms of improving the marketplace and just creating more opportunities on the marketplace, drop it in the chat. Tag one of us, because we want that to reflect the goals and needs of the community. And I know I have seen at different times really solid ideas that probably just got lost somewhere in the chat. So ping us, make sure that we can see that, and we can put it in front of the committee, because I do really want the utility of the marketplace to reflect the needs of the community too. This is by no means a definitive list, so yeah, totally. Cato integration for sure. I like that. I have not tried Cato recently, so the goal for me would be just kind of ensuring we can get the best possible like UX.
I use it a lot.
Okay,
And
good.
I've been talking to some of the guys on their team, and so I mean there could be potential even for promotions. I don't know if you've seen in the past, but they've done them for Osmo and Adam and a couple others, where there was a month that they had people compete to have the most purchases of a coin and then distributed an amount of that coin. So like I won a bunch of Osmo and Atom through that. So the same could be done with like Passage.
That's awesome. Yeah, let me I've got a chat with Vince, and we talked through this specifically, integration, but I just don't remember what the details were. So let me circle back on that. Yeah, 100%.
And I think as these priorities come up and we discuss them, we can start adding them to the bouncy board just in the proposed, and then actively discuss like how do we prioritize this, and do we have someone who's going to take it on or wanting to take it on, and we can get more details. I think just process wise, we saw that we need to get a bit more detail from some of these proposals, like for the archive node. We got some more specifics about SLAs and like downtime and things like this. So I think that was super helpful, and it's kind of a learning experience for us just to see how we prioritize and move things forward, like with consensus, but also in an efficient way. So
Yes. And this is, I mean, here's the one thing. I do think Cato or a fiat on ramp is going to be more useful as we remove other roadblocks, right? Like I do think in some ways just building Passage liquidity is a higher priority, which we've been doing. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the Passage USDC pool is growing, and we've been kind of making some intentional efforts to build liquidity and just improve the user experience for the chain. But yeah, that said, I think those are probably bigger roadblocks to onboarding new people onto the chain than like having a fiat on ramp, because there are probably more people who are already in the Cosmos ecosystem who just haven't, interact with the chain because, if they bought 10K, it would be it'd pump the price or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's harder for them to get a bag quickly. They'd have to do it over time, whatever. Then there are people who aren't in the Cosmos ecosystem who are like, oh, I want to bag a passage, but I don't know how to use osmosis, right? So that said, I do think this is a priority. I think it'll have the most impact once we clear some of these earlier hurdles. But that said, and again, one of the other things too is like this structure we're building out where people could pay for passage pools and whatnot via Stripe, and us purchase passage on the back end, right? Like those are the types of things where like if people are buying something from the passage platform, for instance, like where I actually do see like no, there will be a lot of non-crypto users on that side of things. On the marketplace side of things, frankly, I think most of the people, again, it's more going to be like a liquidity barrier than it would be a Cosmos ecosystem barrier. But that said, I do think that will be useful. That will unlock a certain group of people at the right time. Just order of operations more than, I do still think it is a big value add.
Mhm.
Beans. Okay, this has been a good one. We went over. You guys are awesome. Really enjoy conversation around NFT staking, and yeah, just a lot of the things coming up. I think we're unlocking some opportunities with both the developments for the platform and the developments around the chain. So really appreciate everybody who's been showing up, and both on the development side and on the community side. Really appreciate the feedback, and thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks, everybody.
Go team, go. Hey, Dragon fam.